Hi, welcome to UnCut Juels. We're back. Happy Tuesday. We're back with the unique talk today. I'm very excited to share some thinking with you all. I'm hopeful that you enjoy it too. I sometimes feel like Mr. Rogers when we start this. It's a very unusual thing, but it's like, hi, how are you? But anyway, I wanted to, before I go forward, I wanted to remind you that so we're doing this on Tuesday nights. We're gonna try and adhere to this schedule for a while. So next Tuesday, so Shelley Pikin's debut album drops on Friday. So if you haven't pre-saved it or bought it, please find one of our tweets or our texts or our whatever and pre-save it if you wouldn't mind, because we're really excited about it. So it comes out on Friday, and next week we're going to have Shelley join us along with Eve Nelson, who was one of the predominant producers for her debut album 2.0, etc. And they're going to talk about the process that they had doing the album, and we'll all talk about it together because, as you know, you've probably seen multiple, posts about it, but we've been her marketing partner for it. So we're really excited about that. And today we're going to get to talk about a really interesting conversation. It's very near and dear to me. I'm not sure how many of you know this, but my mother was a therapist. And so it's been a push and pull my whole life trying to figure out the role that an active, healthy mindset can play. And it really wasn't until I was much later in life when I realized the benefits of it, and probably because my mother was a therapist, that I maybe just sort of pushed it away. But yeah, so this is something that's been in my life for a very long time, and I'm super excited to talk with two of our artists today, Ruby Velle and Jessica Childress, about the beautiful, so stigma'd topic of mental health. Yeah. Hi guys.
Hey.
Welcome to UnCut.
Thank you for having me.
I'm so happy you're here. So I haven't seen you on this since April when we did my birthday in COVID.
Epic
still
concert.
Think I won the COVID birthday. Yeah. So thank you. Welcome back.
Good to see you.
Thanks for having us back.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm going to get started with the big question on the table. How have you been? It's been almost 6 months since this all has started, believe it or not. Eek, 5.5.
Crazy.
How you guys doing?
6 months. I will say that I had a moment where somebody at work was asking me how I was doing, and I said, I'm doing pretty slammed, thank you. And I didn't even mean to say it that way, but there's just been a colossal wave of being busier than we need to be in order to not fully heal, and then being bumped up against with taking the time to just heal anyway. So the answer and response in a short way is, I guess, I'm doing.
You're doing.
That's enough. I feel like.
I think at some point it's, do we make it to the other side?
It's real.
Okay.
Yeah, it's real. Yeah.
Jessica.
How about you, Jess?
I have to say, at the beginning of quarantine, I think so many things hit me so hard, and I was just drowning in the uncertainty of it all. But I feel like right now, things have really started to turn a corner for me. I'm feeling really good. And strangely, there's so much to be sad about right now also. Mm-hmm. But I feel like me personally in my life, I feel like I'm doing well and I'm on an upswing. So I feel hopeful.
That's great. That's good.
I will say too, there's a lot of hope. I think maybe a lot of us have experienced 2019, 2018 that was a little rough as well. So a lot of that maybe has set us up in some ways. I know a lot of spirit warriors have built their grit over the last few years. That doesn't mean that we can handle all this chaos, which is a great reason we're talking today. But I feel optimistic too, overall.
Yeah, that's good. What are you guys doing to like get through? Like, are you like,
That's such a good
have you
question.
tried new things? Like, are you?
That's interesting. I feel like I haven't been doing specific things to get through. One specific thing I have been doing. I've always wanted to have a regular yoga practice, and I could never really get into it because it just wasn't as like active. And I feel like if I'm going to work out, like I want it to be active. But
Yeah.
I am doing yoga like at least 4 or 5 times a week. But other than that, I feel like what's helping me get through is just leaning into the fact that like I don't know what's happening and I don't know what's going to happen. And just kind of the expectation of uncertainty rather than expecting certainty and expecting to have a plan. I've just kind of resigned and surrendered to this moment, what's happening. And that's actually helped a lot.
That's really
great.
good. I kind of would add to that in that my resignation, or the way that I pull away from it all, is kind of meditation, and starting my day with the practice has been really helpful. I know there's tons of apps out there for people who haven't been meditating all that long. But even for those of us that have, it's still a challenging time to find your way to the mat for anything, for yoga, for meditation. So yeah, I think apps like Calm and Headspace are really helping.
Yeah.
Journaling apps are really helpful. There's a really great one called Tangerine that kind of allows you to journal about your day and then asks you one simple question. It's like, how do you feel? And you answer with emoji, which I think is kind of special.
That's what Calm does. That's what I love. I use Calm. I love it. Like, it's just so great because it comes up with the, like, you know, you can have it ask you 3 times a day or whatever. I have it like at night, like around 10 o'clock or something like that. And one time around, I think it's like every 12 hours, like 10 and 10.
Yeah.
And it just comes up. It's like, how are you feeling? And like you pick the emoji. And I'm
not familiar.
Oh, it's such a great app. It's an app, and it basically has like meditations. It has affirmations. It has songs. Like Harry Styles did a reading of something, like bedtime stories. You know, so I struggle with sleeping issues and obviously anxiety, but like this, you know, kind of manifests itself right before I go to bed. And what happens is I'll fall asleep and then I'll wake up. Probably have seen an email from me like around 3:30 or 4 in the morning, and I'm like, "What's up?"
A couple of those.
So, and you know, and then it's hard for me to get back to bed. So Calm actually has another thing where they kind of break down some of the issues that you might struggle with, and in the sleep area, it's like, how do you get back to sleep even? So I've been using that, and they've got like white noise and stuff too. But the check-in is a bit of a journaling piece. So I do, like, you use the emoji and then you write like, let's take a moment, you know, press pause, like, why are you feeling this way? And then you can write in, like, you know, especially when like Lola in the beginning of the year, I was just like, am I going to make it through? Like, once COVID hit and I'm like, my dog is going to pass while I'm in COVID. And I, you know, like, it's going to happen. I just don't know like how, when, you know? So I started writing a lot about that because it just weighs on you, and I don't know where to put that stuff. So it's helpful just to get it out, but you might want to check it out. It's an interesting app. I mean, I know you've got a couple of resources that you know, track with as well, but believe it or not, Kaiser actually gave it to us for free. I'm with Kaiser. Yeah. So they give you like a thing, and and they give you therapy sessions now too for free, which is really interesting. Like talk therapy, you know, so it is what you make of it, but it's cool that they're doing that. Shout out Kaiser.
Awesome. And Jess, you were going to mention a really great resource as well for therapy while we're on the topic.
Oh yeah. There's a website called Therapy for Black Girls, and it's really, it's designed for this particular moment. It connects Black women with resources where they can find a therapist in their area. A lot of the therapy is subsidized or on a sliding scale because this is a crazy time. I mean, I don't know that there's ever not been a crazy time to be Black in America, but this is a particularly crazy time to be Black in America. And I feel like I feel like everybody should be in therapy, first of all, but
Yes.
Right.
particularly Black people, Black women, Black men. So
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah. And I was actually reading
Source.
about race trauma, which is another thing that's like the suppression of, you know, some of the things that have been going on. I mean, we're all being, you know, daily traumatized by the videos that go around. I mean, whether it's actually like happening to us or not, it doesn't even matter. It's just in the world and you can see it and it's impossible to turn it off. Like just impossible. Yeah. So, which is good, right? Like we're having the conversations that we need to be having, but it can also start to be a trigger for people and it can start to really traumatize, you know, in a long-term sense. So we have to be really careful about establishing boundaries and all of those things, which, you know, really do fall out of understanding who you are in that conversation and what you're doing. So
I posted something about that on my Instagram story, just saying like, people have no idea what it feels like as a Black person to watch a Black person being lynched in a video and then have to leave your home and go out into the world. And like the sense of panic and anxiety and lack of safety that you just feel having seen these images over and over and over and over. It's just crazy.
And then there's the need to go into a direction of like not oversharing it, right? I would love for us to get to a point where we're curating our social media to a point that we understand what Black joy is and what we understand what Black empowerment is way more than we're seeing these devaluing visuals, right? So I think that is personal responsibility for your own mental health in your digital space. Can you go through your followers right now? Can you go through their followers right now and just kind of cull the things back to a more sane place for your mental health? You know, I know we're talking about that mute button is very powerful in some cases.
I love that thing.
And
I pretty much have muted everybody. Just kidding.
Right. And
seriously.
It's not about creating a bubble of safeness and comfortableness, right? Yeah. It's about, I'm not subjecting myself to visual trauma.
That's exactly right.
Over and over again. I have the right to be blissful and create bliss from wherever I am at.
Yeah.
Right. Right. And it's not because you're not doing things though that are important to, you know, like we're all having those conversations.
Yes.
But there are times where we do, like I said, these boundaries, they get so confusing sometimes. And, you know, and social media is a perfect example because we're all being told we're supposed to be doing this.
Yeah.
You know, and some days it's just like, is that really the thing that we all want to be doing? No, you know, but it's a necessary evil.
It is. I think when it's done with intention of empowerment and care, I think that's where we can really start to see a difference in the social spaces. And honestly, my Instagram has come from a place where it was like an unhealthy space for me personally to be, to now I know when I hit that explore tab, I'm going to see fulfilling and optimistic and helpful things to me in this time. But it took like months to curate it that way for me. And it doesn't mean that I turn off the news. It doesn't mean I don't take on headlines. It means that when I'm scrolling, if I'm scrolling, it's empowering. And I think that's a huge part of mental health in the digital space.
That's a great one. Good coping mechanism.
Thank you. Yeah. So we're still on this first topic. We could probably talk forever.
I had no
what
idea.
Else is getting us through.
Wait, if I could just say, I had no idea that explore tab was a real thing. Like I actually Hamish explained it to me the other day. Because I was like, I don't know what this is, and I never use it. And then I realized when Reels happened, it was when the Instagram Reels thing happened. I was like, that's what Reels is. Well, I was like, this is so, and everything was just terrible, like terrible stuff in there, like things that I don't want to see. So he explained that you could actually change that. So I've been actively doing that too.
You could change it to some extent, you know, like it's really strange for me is I will always see like every third picture is like Amy Winehouse for some reason. And like, I've never liked any Amy Winehouse stuff. So it's like, what is it really searching in that background? But
soul, probably just soul.
I'll take it.
She's like everything's soul. Yeah.
Everything's soul.
Well, all right. So I think we did kind of cover a lot of the stuff we wanted to talk about, but I guess, the one thing that I know we haven't really unpacked is the sort of stigma. I mean, look, I read the stat the other day, or this morning actually, that 1 in 4 people are going to struggle with a mental health issue. 1 in 4, like that's a lot. And then on top of it, since COVID started, there's this article in the Huffington Post, and I think they referenced the JAMA, I think it's the Journal of American Medical Association or something like that. And they said that they tracked the amount of searches on the word panic attack, Google searches on the word panic attack, since March 10th. It's the highest it's been in 16 years. First of all, 16 years, I didn't even know what a panic attack was like 16 years ago. So I'm sure they didn't have many 16 years ago, but still like the highest it's ever been. So this year from March 10th on, it's just like, it's escalated. And yet really like, there still is this stigma. Like, when I put the call out to everybody to say like, anybody want to come on and talk? It was, you two were like,
Jess and I.
Yeah, I'm in, but not everybody wants to have this conversation, and understandably so. It's very, so personal. But why, considering everybody's struggling so much, why do you think the stigma exists still?
I feel like for years and years and years, the language around mental health was so stigmatizing, sanitarium, psychiatrists, like all the images of people with, disorders and things like portrayed in the media was so extreme. And I think people still have some of that like in their encoding. And I know in various communities, you keep personal things personal, and every your struggles, you put your best face forward, and people think that your best face is like a perfect face, a curated face. But mental health, that stat that you just said, 1 in 4 people will struggle with a mental health. I think that's 1 in 4 people that will admit that they're struggling with a mental health issue. I feel like 4 in 4 people will have a mental health issue at some point in their lives. And even that statistic alone shows people don't want to be vulnerable. People don't want to confront their emotions. It's scary.
So scary.
It is,
and
very
I think
scary.
Vulnerability is like that's the key word. I know we've talked about this before, but that Brené Brown, Power of Vulnerability, all of that. If you guys haven't seen that TED Talk, you should watch it. It's a game changer. It's amazing. And when you see how you break it down, it's like, why wouldn't you want to be like that? But it's like apparently vulnerability has an association issue with like, that's like you're too kind, or you're too nice, or you're being, exposing or open. And, I find that strong as a strength for people. I mean, both of you have been so vulnerable with your music, even that to think, like that most of those are probably conversations you've had that maybe even are in this kind of a space, like working through and cathartically doing things.
You know what's funny? That word vulnerable, I'll tell you I haven't always been this way. I was very much a person that wanted people to think that I was very hard. I really wanted to project this image that I don't have feelings. I never cry. I don't like kids. Like I'm just a tough bitch and don't talk to me. Because back then the word vulnerability, I think of it in like people have vulnerabilities like cracks where other people can come in and like destroy them. That's another definition of a vulnerability is a weak place that is vulnerable to attack.
Right, like the head of a baby.
For me, it comes through most in the cultural lens. Like there's a cultural lens on that word, and there's a level of diversity in America that makes it so that not everybody has the same opinion of what is vulnerable. And I know personally I have overcome a lot just in my East Indian culture, because mental health was not a topic that we brought up. It wasn't something that was discussed openly in the family. And today I've asked a lot of my fans and friends if it is a priority conversation in their lives, in their families, in their circle. And the answer has been unanimously yes. And people are talking about it. And that's just a small little subset of my very curated Instagram world, which I just admitted to over curating. But at the same time, I think that says a lot that, you know, there are cultures that don't support talking about it openly, do value it as strength when you can keep it in and deal with it within. And that's sometimes without even telling your own parents about it or having that relationship where you can say, I have a challenge, I have a problem. And I think we see this in a lot of the Eastern countries where it's not acceptable to the kids themselves to get certain grades. And that will be something that they're leveling in their mind with ending their lives with, you know. So there's such a spectrum of what is okay and what is the priority of the conversation being had. It's not just how you doing, are you okay to your kids. Sometimes it's about digging deeper. And I feel a lot of parents from different cultures never either got that message or they were too busy trying to figure themselves out as first-time immigrant parents or first-time immigrants to America. So now we are here, the three of us, as in our unity, discussing how we talk about this openly together.
How we really feel.
Yeah, it is good.
I think you touched on something so interesting about the generation of, you know, my mom is an immigrant as well. And talking about feelings, like I feel like the generation before us, you know, the value was in getting a good job, getting good grades, buying a house, providing for your family, and just soldiering through. Like those were the things that mattered. And especially if you're going to emigrate from a whole other country to come here, we don't have time for your feelings.
Yes.
You need to
Which is why often Kristin and I are like, oh, are you sure you don't want to put out that next song instead of like billing those 40 hours? I'm like, what?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I feel like our generation has realized that that's actually a liability, you know, keeping everything inside. And I also think that we have more support from our communities.
We do.
And
more than ever.
Yeah.
So it's a little
that feels so good just to let that sink in for a second. Like I just got chills because that support hasn't been there. 100 years of the vote right now. So where have we been all that time? You know, like there's just been so much growing and developing the support around us. And we have feminist Black women, women of color to thank all of these years that have been putting themselves out there.
Pushing it.
And being thought leaders for it. And, you know.
Yeah, it's crazy how slow it's been because, and I mean, obviously we're kind of in a tangent now, but I do think that this is all related because, you know, I mean, when you look at the next 20 years, it's going to get better because more and more people and younger people are starting to realize, like, you know, we're all in this. Like, yeah, exactly. But I tell people constantly, like, when you think, you know, just when you think you're focused on you and your dollar, the reality is that the communities that you live in, if they're unhealthy, your dollar doesn't mean anything. And you might be a billionaire, but you'll be alone in this. Like, I mean, maybe that's what you want, but like, it's got, like, to me, I feel like there's an obvious sort of coming of age piece to what all of this is about. Mental health, race, you know, all of that, just sort of like, if we take it to places where it actually can be reconstructed properly. And I think that's what the hope is, you know, that we get to do that. I think it's going to be the younger generations that are leading us that way. Sorry,
well,
what were you saying?
You have certainly done that for me in my life, Kristin. You've always been there to support and offer books and offer, you know, constructive criticism and like sometimes just that like swift kick in the butt that you need to just kind of switch that perspective away from victimhood. It's very easy as somebody who's been marginalized once or twice over, or 3 or 4 times over, to feel like the decks are always stacked against you. And it's very good when you have support in your circle to say, no, we actually value you. We believe in what you do. We're not overvaluing you. We're not devaluing you. We are saying that what you have is worthy. And I think
important.
that's wonderful. What you were saying reminded me of The Great Work of Your Life, the book that you gave me, and
my
finding
book,
your
my
Dharma.
favorite.
Your Dharma. So I feel like the assignment right now for a lot of people is, what is that Dharma? You know, and if even if you know you're not following it to a T, you still know what it is, and it's still a kind of creep or a calling in your life. And a way I like to describe Dharma for those who don't know Sanskrit or Buddhist philosophy is a wheel that keeps you moving. What is that wheel?
Yeah.
What is that momentum behind the wheel of your life that keeps you moving?
That just goes. It's intrinsic.
It just goes.
Without you pushing it or breathing on it, it's just of you. It's like a thing that just keeps you going. Yeah.
Yeah. And one way that I've learned to figure it out, I've heard some people in great environments that I've been in use this, but they say, what's the one word on your tombstone? If you're going that way and you're being buried in the ground. I have a very different way that I'm going to go, but what's on your tombstone if it's that one word, you know? I'm curious to know from each of you. Should I put you on the spot?
But I know exactly what my tombstone is going to say, but it's not one word. But I've always said it. I've said it since the 90s, and it's going to say there was love in the house. Like, that's all that I can, like, there was this DJ in the 90s that would, Theo on 92.3 The Beat, and he would say it every time. He'd be like, there was love in the house. And he was a little Filipino guy with dreads, but I swear to God, I thought he was a black man. And I just thought that was like the best line. Like, because that's the hope, is that there always is love in the house that you built, you know? So that's definitely on my epitaph.
Why we're having this conversation today, because there is love in the house.
Yeah. What about you, Jess?
Yeah, I don't know. I never imagined that I would be buried. So I'm like uncomfortable personally with the idea of like summing up a person or an experience in a phrase.
Sure.
So, and I always imagined that I would be cremated. So I don't know.
Me too.
Me too. I'm at that party too.
Yeah.
But I still want a tombstone because my mom is dead, and I want her to have like a person near her. So I'm gonna put something there.
Love in the house is definitely a good one for sure.
Yeah.
Co-sign. Also, of course.
Yeah.
I think that's really good. We can't possibly be defined with one term, for sure.
It's a hard one.
But if I had to pick one that I kind of think defines every facet of my life in which I'd really like feel something for, it would be the word powerhouse.
I love that.
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah.
You're a little powerhouse.
And at first I thought that was because I always felt that I was bigger than I am. And when people come to see me on stage, like, they're very, very surprised. But now I understand it's more that a powerhouse stays running and keeps the lights on for others. And that's what I have always tried to do since day one. And so for me, it's that's it. I can kind of use that to help guide me when I get lost.
I could see that.
It's a beautiful thing, like somebody that keeps the lights on. I guess I'm still in a new phase of self-discovery where I finally like disconnected. This has been a huge part of my mental health struggle, of feeling so like my worth is connected to my output, like how much I do, how much I generate, how much money I make. And I feel like it's so very cultural. It's a very American ideal. Like, even the American dream has nothing to do with your quality of life, but rather like how much wealth you amass and how much wealth you're able to give to your kids. And I was very much on that. Like, I would put out music, and if it didn't generate numbers or generate income, I just felt like, okay, well, that wasn't actually good because it didn't produce. And
then meanwhile, it leaves your fans in tears, and they are sweating on the ground after you're done playing because they can't even handle it.
That's the hope. But divorcing myself from like my worth as a person isn't about how much work I do, how tired I am. Like, I'm so tired because I work so much, or how much money I make, or what I'm doing. Like, I have intrinsic value.
Yes.
And there is also value in literally finding your Dharma. Like, that is the value of finding the thing that fulfills you, like that's it. Whether that makes you rich is irrelevant.
That's it.
Oh, girl, honestly, when I read that book, I was at Kaiser, leaving Kaiser, and I read this book, and the only thing I realized was if I didn't try music now, I will never forgive myself.
Yep.
And because I always knew I love music, but like I was like, I don't know what, like where am I going with this? I'm a marketing person, you know what I mean? But I agree with you. It's like once I found that, it's like these last 7 years have just gone by so fast. But I also use it as a litmus test. Is it getting me further to that, like I'm not making money, like, you know what I mean? Like we're not like, it's not like don't have a corporate job anymore. You know what I mean? Like that's gone, but I feel like I'm a better, more whole person. Yes. And as a result, I feel like I've been able to, look, none of this existed in my 20s either. Right. It wasn't even until I was 38 where I realized I had to take my baggage and open it up and do that laundry
and heal
and that started. Oh, that's the book that starts that process. Like those kind of things where you're like, what am I about? Like, what am I doing? Why am I so afraid to be in like a, real relationship, having real conversations with people and not being like judgy McJudgy, like, oh no, you're nothing. I'm not gonna, whatever. Like, you know what I mean? I dismiss people left and right in my 20s. And now I have to, you do the mea culpa and you come back and all that process, like, it took me 8 years to figure that out. I mean, we talk about this all the time, Jess. It's, I'm nothing without having put that work in, but it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to make more money. It means you're going to feel better about your time on the planet. And if I die tomorrow, I know I've done the best I can with this amount of time that I've been given. You know what I mean? Like I do feel that way. It's just, I don't have kids to leave money to anyway, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah. It's like, if you're living in your purpose, if you're living in a balanced way, have a little bit more space and a little bit more time to really open those luggages and be like, ooh,
dirty.
You know what I mean? I feel like
Cue Bag Lady by Erica Badu right now.
My song. Bag Lady.
It's so hard. It's so hard to admit that like you have been running at a breakneck speed, that you have so much work to do, and that maybe like right now you're not okay. Yeah. It's hard to admit because if you're running 1,000,000 miles an hour, you don't have time to be like, wow, I haven't slept for more than 4 hours in years. Or, wow, I can't really hold a conversation anymore. I wonder why I have so many racing thoughts. It's just like, keep going, drink a beer, drink a Red Bull, and keep it moving. Like, but that's not sustainable for anyone.
No.
And honestly, it's been hard for artists. Sorry. As much as I feel it's been hard for artists in this time, a lot of them that I've talked to that have been avid tourers have been like, thanking whoever. Some of them are atheists, and they're even like, because they got a chance to just chill for a minute and
press pause,
regroup, press pause, figure out what they needed to do for their mind, body, spirit, and then move from that space, right?
Yeah.
So it's a perfect time to be rethinking all of that.
Yeah, I'm most concerned about how to get out. Well, okay, I think the idea of 2021 has been ruminating in my mind lately, and that was my last session was about like where is this all going, and what happens when there is a vaccine, and what happens when things start to like lift up again. It's like, is it going to be just like a race to the finish line again? Like, do people just pop back on again? My friend in New York or outside of New York was like, she's starting to get really busy again with things, and it just feels like everybody's just back to normal, even though they're not really going out and doing things. It's the mentality. Yeah. And I'm worried about that flipping of the switch. Just like we turned it off. Now, do we just turn it back on again? Like that? Do you think about that at all?
I do. I really, my hope for this moment, like this is so unprecedented, all of the things that are happening. Yeah. And the universe has given us this gift of truth, of self-evolution, reflection. It's given us a big giant fun house mirror of like what our society really looks like. And I think you know, you were saying that anxiety is coming up for a lot of people, like more than in the last 16 years. And I feel like that's really due to, we have a window of time where we are with ourselves. And I get the desire to go back to normal and go back into your routine where you don't have to like sit with yourself and with your thoughts. But my hope is that people and society writ large really recognize, like, you can't run from yourself. Can't hide from what's happening in your heart and in your brain. It doesn't matter how busy you get.
Yeah.
You can plug your ears, but that doesn't mean that the house isn't burning down.
Yeah.
Right.
So and I've read so much in science too that is like talking about the benefits of alone time and the benefits of having your own space and your own, you know, abode, what have you. So yeah, I agree. I agree with that.
Are you guys lonely during COVID, or are you enjoying like being in your space and feeling good about that?
As a Virgo
That's a great question.
/ Pisces / Gemini, I'm never alone. There's so much going on up here that I've got ideas and things for days. So yeah, I don't feel lonely. I do distance myself from my husband. I do make sure that he has his time, that we both have our time. I think that that's important. But I haven't been too lonely because I've had a lot of ideas, creative ideas to share, and just like writing and getting them down on paper, and even just trying to be more diligent than I was before. Like those are all personal goals that I'm like really focused on. So it doesn't make me as lonely. But that being said, I've overcome a lot of mental health hurdles. So if this would have happened to me last year, I don't know that I would have the same answers and responses. So I took a lot of responsibility to figure out what I needed to. I'm 4 years into an adult ADHD diagnosis. I've been on and through medications, off of medications. I've realized the power of good sleep and good nutrition. But I'm still working, like really working on the nutrition part. If there's something more important, I will put food off and like not worry about it. So yeah, I guess I say that to say that we're all at different places, and just because I'm in this place, it's not prescriptive, right? Everybody finds what works for them. However they can. But it does help to have these support people that you can talk to, even if it's just one friend. That's really all you need. You don't need like a whole big group of people to help you through. Sometimes it's just one person to have that perspective.
Yeah.
And then there are plenty now of online therapy outlets and group outlets and resources to help with that kind of stuff.
I definitely feel like, I mean, I live alone. I got a dying dog. There are days where I'm like, what am I doing? Like, how am I going to, this maybe isn't, like I should interact with people more. So I am conscious of, I spend literally if I didn't have a garden that I share a part of it with my neighbor, I don't think I would even see anybody. Like there's days that go by where I don't see anybody, but I do try to like connect with my family once a week. And, I reached out to
physical space with the family. Definitely miss
but that's
that.
what I mean. Like they're all on the East Coast, so it's not, with the exception of my sister here, and my sister in Texas. But yeah, it can get lonely, but I'm not like, I'm used to being alone, so I don't notice it as much. And I think that's the piece where I'm like, it kind of creeps in to you like every once in a while. Yeah. But I don't think about it every day.
I am enjoying being alone. It is, I'm really like, I've been in a mental health journey, like a major one of healing for, I would say, intensively, like the last 3 years. And it has been like so difficult and extremely painful. When people talk about growth, they think like they always give you these analogies of like plants, with like
Straight out the mud. Sorry, I did it too. But it's more like
it's more like you're
mud.
growing. It's more like when you're little and you have growth spurts and your bones are in so much pain in the middle of the night.
Yes.
It's more, for me, it's been like very painful. And I feel like, 2018, 2019 were so challenging. And this year has been challenging in a different way, but getting to have my own space and really find peace there. I did like you said, Ruby, like doing the work of hearing what my inner voice is saying, like getting into her. So it's not such a shock when it's just me, myself, and her. I'm able to like really discover, okay, what do I want? What is my intuition saying? I have a recent bipolar diagnosis. So that's been, I've always kind of known that I get unbalanced from time to time, and I'm thankful that it's not so very severe. But really having the time to see, what is my body doing? What is my brain doing? Okay, these are the signs when I'm starting to feel a little off balance. Okay. Yeah. Those are things that I never had the space to do, because when someone's around watching you, you're like, you immediately want to correct so that you look, good. So you're not, am I acting weird? Do people think I'm acting weird?
You don't fully process
self-conscious.
it. Yeah.
So getting to really just sit and be like, Jess, you're good. You've got this.
You're better than good. You're more than enough all the time.
All the time.
Yeah, it's true though. But I think you're right. Because obviously I've lived alone for a couple years now, since 2010, since 10 years. And I have obviously, Ruby stayed with me and people have stayed with me. But I think, this is the first year where I haven't had anybody in my space for 5 months now, the last 5 months, 6 months. And it's, I do things that I want to do when I want to do it. And that does feel very liberating. Like I do really, it's also weird when you're like, it's 9:30 and I'm eating dinner because I've forgotten and I've been on call. You know what I mean? Like there isn't anybody to come and be like, hey, let's eat or here's some food. I don't have that. You know what I mean? I have to like remember to do that stuff, which is why I cook once a week and then I parse it out over the week so that if I need to do that, I can, but it's the only way to keep it going.
That sounds like another UnCut Juels episode.
I know, right? How do you guys handle, like, how has like, I know there's that like stop and rein, like when you're talking like Jessica about like kind of observing yourself, do you use like this one, like there are many different ways to be mindful, right? So there's a couple of them. Rein is recognize, acknowledge, instigate, non-identify, so don't plug in. And then, but the one I really like is the stop one, that sort of stop, take a breath, observe, and proceed. And when COVID started hitting hard and everybody was self-isolating and we couldn't get toilet paper and Lysol, I had a couple nights where I had some, like you guys know, I had a panic attack where I passed out. Woke up in my hallway and I was like, holy crap, what just happened? Like it was so fast. And I remember thinking like, I couldn't catch my breath afterwards. There were like 4 nights where there was so much anxiety. And I used that to break my own rumination because it's kind of amazing how when you can't swallow, you can't, you know what I mean? Like there were things that were happening to my body and I was like, is this COVID or is this like anxiety? Or like, I didn't know where it was coming from. Anyway, that one in particular, I would say if you, as we go through these things, I find I need a way to reflect immediately so that I'm not making it worse, because that happens like that for me. But do you have things like that you use, or is it just like you're just kind of still going through it? Or is music your thing? Do you go and write a song? Like, how do you use music during these times?
Yeah, that's a
Have
really
you
good
used
one.
music? Have you been writing?
Music. Well, for me, I have an amazing therapist, first of all. So she has been a rock for me. And she said something similar because Hey,
to all the therapists out there.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Diana. I can be a very reactionary person. And she always encourages me to respond rather than to react. And it's really those steps where you just pause, you observe your own reaction. Like, what is being triggered in me? Why the hell am I having such an extreme reaction? And then you realize, oh, this isn't actually about the situation. I'm having anxiety around uncertainty, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
So instead of reacting, sometimes I don't have the space to respond. Like, I don't have it within me. And that's when I do go to music, and I really just sit at the piano and play until I feel better, which is something I've done since I was really, really little. Like,
that's great.
Whenever I'm upset, I just play piano.
Yeah.
So you have been actively writing and using music during this time?
Yeah, I've written a lot. At first, I was so uninspired. Like, the world is trash. And then, again, a reaction. And then once I just got my feet back on the ground and got myself back into my own body, I was like, let me just do what feels good. And what feels good is just writing. And so a bunch of songs came out.
Yay.
That's great.
Q, your head will get there if your feet stay on the ground.
I love that.
So that's a really good segue into most of my songs are cathartic lessons to my future self. Have been, always, always, always have been. And when I say my future self, I really mean the collective, but they always go and apply back to me as a person. So it's easier for me to say I can gauge what we can feel collectively and then channel it through what I really want to get out in a song. So I think that has been really cathartic. But also just reading a ton of books too is helpful in journaling. One of the things that I just remembered was a book called Start Here, and they kind of use the same framework that you were talking about, but it's notice, shift, and then rewire. So you're noticing what it is, you're stopping in that moment of overreaction, you're shifting to what could be the best outcome for my highest self, and then from there you're rewiring to do that action real time, right? And even if that means like I'm going to stop and like from here be a different person, that's what that means. And in any moment you can have that choice.
Is that the book that I have back here too? That's got all the different like ways to go through. I think it breaks it down.
I think I have a copy at your place and at my place.
No, my friend Lyle Berkowitz gave it to me, the doctor that I used to work with on the innovation. Yeah, his friend wrote it, and I think we had this conversation because that book is so pragmatic. Jessica, I should give that to you. It's so pragmatic.
It's amazing. My pages are dog-eared to it, and it just never leaves my bedside table. It's really good.
That's great. That's
awesome that you've been using music. The other thing with that is don't be afraid to suck at something right now. Right now is a great time to suck at something. And just not be so hard on yourself for it. So I've been trying to play guitar since I was 16. I am now able to play up to 5 or 6 rhythm chords and sing at the same time. It's taken me my whole life, but the year that I decided to stop giving a shit and just be bad at it and lean on good teachers, Lauren, thank you, Lauren, so much for helping me through. That has really been something like I asked for the help. I wanted to do it. Kristin, Lauren made sure that it was happening. So
I was like, we're going to put it on the calendar and make it happen.
Yeah. And
I'm so tired of,
I'm not ready to play like a full-on show yet, but I'm not far from it. But that wasn't the goal. The goal was what does it feel like when I'm backing myself up? Because that's never happened musically for me in my life.
That's amazing. How empowering, Ruby. Congratulations.
Thank you. It's sometimes so empowering that I stop what I'm doing altogether in the song because I'm just a little overwhelmed that it's only me. So that's like a whole new chapter that I unlocked because of this little bit of extra time and thankfully being able to take care of my surroundings and myself enough to be able to explore something new. So, I think if you're just at the point with this where you cannot take any more, there's like resources to help with that. And then you just start from where you are, right?
Yeah. And I feel like something that I tell myself and I tell my friends all the time is you have, like, in general, but especially now, be soft with yourself.
Mm-hmm.
I think
Feel feel it. Yeah.
People have so much like expectation of like, okay, so now I'm going to work on my mental health. So I'm going to read these 4 books, and then I'm going to go to the therapist 12 times. And
Right.
then I'm going to like be cured. And then I'm just going to like, but it's really such a process of self-discovery and healing, and is a lifelong journey. It's a lifelong journey. And while you're starting, you have to be soft with yourself and recognize that even taking the step to healing and to knowing yourself is huge.
It's
just wanting to do it in the first place is like, it's not a small thing. It's like a leap.
Yep. And I think and we talked about this. I think you and I just talked about this, and I know Ruby and I talked about this before too, because we all kind of come from strong women and strong families that are, you know, connected. And I'm Italian descent, right? So we're all, like, it's very strong people. But when we're practicing self-love and acceptance and being softer, we also have to apply that knowledge for our parents and our parents' parents too, because and our parents' parents, right? Like, it's like, this is it's amazing that this is 20 years ago, we couldn't have this conversation, right? It's like, so we didn't even know that, how to accept and understand where our parents were coming from, and apply that compassion to them. Because for what it's worth, even with the mom who was a therapist, she still couldn't fix herself, and she died at 46. So like, I didn't, like, it sounds great in theory, but you can't, we're kind of like in nomad's land, like with all of this now, like just exploring it. So to be soft is to be loving to ourselves, right? And
compassion, self-compassion.
That's a good, But I feel bad, like I think about our parents and our parents' parents who didn't get the chance to really sit and understand what that means. And I know it sounds very, like, even if my dad was watching this right now, I'm sure he's probably eye rolling. But like, I think it's important to, when things come at me, especially where they're difficult and I'm confused by them, I go extra hard with love, because I just feel like that's the only thing I can do is just, somebody's having a bad day, something's going on, I don't understand your mindset, but I totally love you. That's it. That's the only way. But it's pretty amazing that our parents have endured what they did too, without being able to talk about things.
Yeah, that's what makes me very grateful for the apps and the tools and the digital resources. Like, I can't tell you what a spiritual mother YouTube has been to me. I never expected to find so much spiritual growth and mental health. And there's even channels for adult ADHD on there, like, so valuable. And if you can subscribe to remove the ads, it's even better. But if you can't, like, 20 years ago, there was Louise Hay talking about this very notion of, we have to forgive our parents. We have to understand that they were doing the best that they possibly could. And now in real time, I'm able to learn from that because somebody in the 80s wanted to record Louise Hay. So I think that, if you want to find the tools, you have to ask. And if you don't ask, then you're not really ready for that journey. So if somebody doesn't know where to go, get to the point where you can ask a question.
That is what you just said unlocked so much for me. I was one of those people, like, I'm still one of those people who wants to do a good job, who wants to do it right, who wants a worksheet. I want to follow the steps. I want to read the manual, and I want to do it.
You too.
I read every manual that I get with anything, like cover to cover. And my therapist told me, this was maybe a year ago. I was like, there's so much that I feel like is still inside that I haven't gotten to yet. And I just, like, what do we need to do? Like, how do we dig that up and out? And she's like, when you're ready to actually grapple with it, it will bubble to the surface.
Yep.
And if it's not bubbling to the surface, you're not ready. So let's just be where we are today.
Yes.
And worry about that next.
I will
As
say,
that I Ching quote, that only through the lens in which you want to see the actual truth will a path forward show itself to you. I'm totally paraphrasing it because I can never remember the words, but it's not until you're ready. When you're ready, you see it. When you're not ready, you'll find any reason not to deal with it. It's beautiful. But once you see it, you can't unsee it.
And you just
it's
have
just
to
there for your whole life.
Step at a time. It's really a one step at a time. Mental health is a one step at a time. And I feel like when I say ready, I don't mean you feel good about you feel good about it. Like, it's not going to always feel like so good, but
it's not going to feel good at all for a while.
On the path of like, this is something that I want to do. This is something that's important to me. And just take one step at a time. And again, be soft with yourself and celebrate the little wins, because little wins, they look little, but actually
they're everything.
Monumental.
Yeah. Those good habits.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Those good habits will go such a far way. And that's coming from somebody who just started subscribing to them like 2 years ago. So I can see in my life how much it's helped me. Like, it's gotten to the point where I can safely come off of medication that I wanted to be off of in the first place. And that isn't going to work for everybody. But because I was looking within, because I found modalities of healing that worked for me, mantra is a huge one. Yoga is another one. Deep breathing, pranayama, all of those kind of meditative arts. They were able to really, really help, but I wasn't ready for so many of those things, right? It came with great pain and suffering and facing the fact that I was going to need to level up and shift or transform or lose my soul. You have those choices, you know, and a lot of us that do feel some kind of optimism, we aren't giving up on ourselves. And I think that there are some of us that are so clouded in their thoughts that they don't have that, to find it easy to want to keep on. And I think that, you know, that optimism that we feel is hard earned, and nobody can take that from you. You know, once you know how to find that joy within, that peace within, that's what every guru, every sage, everybody talks about, that peace within. That's not just a spiritual woo-woo thing. That is a thing worth exploring in these times. For sure.
Something that has just helped. Like I told you guys, I wasn't always down with the daily practice of yoga. I'm a Pisces girl, so structure and schedules are like not my jam. But something that I am now like aware of as much as I can be is breath. I don't think people realize how often they're holding their breath.
Or short breaths.
I kept a breath journal. I've been keeping a breath journal, which is
that's awesome.
a very cool thing. Like, just being aware, noticing when I'm walking around, or when somebody walks into a room and I'm like, you know what I mean? And writing it down and making a note like, hey, these are the things that interrupt my breath. And just reconnecting
They're
to
telling
breath.
me something. What are they telling me?
Helps with anxiety. It helps with all of, like, even grief. Like, connecting with your breath just really helps move it around, move it out.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
that was the first thing I realized when I was having anxiety, was it was all controlled by my breathing. And I was I held my breath for, I mean, I can hold my breath for a really long time. Just is what it is. Like, when you wake yourself up sometime gasping for air, because I've held my breath, like it's just in my sleep even. But it's true.
It's experience that too.
I think I just ignored it. But that's that's why I like that stop thing, because it does include breathing. And if you can register with your breathing, if you can connect with it, it can take you out of where your head is going, even, because you're just forcing one thought at a time. Just take that deep breath, inhale and exhale. And it's a collective, right? We should all do it right now. Let's do it. You ready?
Ready?
Okay, ready.
1, 2, 3.
It feels so good.
So
it really
good.
does.
It just feels good.
So good.
When in doubt,
so I know.
Take a big breath.
Take a deep breath. Exactly. So I know we are almost at an hour, and I wanted to leave on a bit of a positive note, since it's been very heavy. We kind of touched on this a little bit before when we talked about hope. But I wanted to see if like you guys could think of like last words of wisdom that are like hope oriented. Like, what gives you hope today? Like, what do you have hope for? Maybe not today, but like in the future. What are you hopeful for?
Unanimously, for the last decade, I would say the momentum of the women's wave has given me a lot of hope. Seeing people like Kamala run for office in America gives me a lot of hope. Seeing that our immigrant families are being more and more supported every day, even though there's an opposite narrative happening, it gives me a lot of hope. To see more and more organizations like Girls Rock Camp Atlanta, Dream Warriors Foundation, that are bolstering and showing support for women communities of color and those that are underserved, and even just entrepreneurs that are, going and staking their claim in a new industry. All of this stuff is so important. All of these organizations are so important. So if you're an advocate and you're looking for something to do to help, please support one of these organizations that cares about the mental health of women. Once we care about the mental health of women and the women-based community, we are essentially caring about the world. And I'm not the only one to say that. There's organizations that put money and time behind it, CARE, Kiva, you name it. So that's the thing that I feel the most hope for, is that we'll start to see that women can save the world and we will shape the future.
Beautiful. I love that.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. I'm going to co-opt that too.
I know it to
Manifest.
be true. I know it to be
Manifest.
true.
I'm putting that in the jar. Something that's giving me hope is the conversations that I've been having with people, specific and non, how deeply people are engaging in the work of anti-racism, how friends that I've had for 20 years, I'm able to speak to them about race and racism in this country in a way that I haven't before.
Yeah.
So that gives me a lot of hope. It also makes me feel like people are having courage, and people having courage gives me a lot of hope.
Yes.
The vulnerability around recognizing privilege, that people are willing to verbalize that gives me hope.
Yes.
So
yeah,
It's nice to see too. It's very nice to see.
That is a good one. I would have definitely said, I feel like the women's piece, all of this, I've never felt more inspired by the people that I know, and watching people that I don't know, but I'm like peripherally involved with, do great things. And I feel like, I know that this is going to sound silly, but like sometimes just even seeing like you guys, knowing that you're out there doing the live streams and that life kind of feels like it's going to be okay. Like, like I know it's tough, and I feel, Hamish stuck in Melbourne really does weigh heavy. I just feel bad, about those types of things, but it gives, I am hopeful through all of the work you guys have been doing and everything that's been going on in the songs. And I don't know, I just feel like at least I've got something to look forward to. And I feel like our collective is helpful.
Humanity finds a way, baby.
Yeah. And what I love is that more and more as independent artists, we will begin to further define what it means to share our art, to put it out, to stand behind it in a new way. And I don't think that means that the record labels won't have the power that they have, but the shifts are immeasurable. And the pivots
that's a whole,
are endless.
We need to have that conversation too.
And we know resiliency.
Yeah. That's going to be the next thing that I think you're, it can't be like this. That people aren't going to be using labels, if you know what I mean, if they can do it on their own. So we're all pioneers right now, like with, in many, many respects. So
and good. Trailblazing takes a lot of self-care. You cannot blaze a trail if you're not asking for the help. It's just not possible.
Absolutely. Well, I don't think we can get better of a note to end on. So I'm going to say, let's press pause now.
That was
Thank
awesome.
you guys so much for joining me on our inaugural mental health conversation. I don't know, why am I sparkling? How weird is that?
I love your sparkle.
I don't know what's going on.
Juel.
Anyway,
jewel.
but I'm so grateful that you both raised your hands so fast, and I'm so thankful for both of you. And okay,
Same.
so before we go, both of you have releases coming out soon, and I will tell you when they're happening. So
You go ahead.
Jessica has a single coming out in September. Ruby has one coming out in October, and I think on the same day or around the same time frame, your EP comes out at the end of October, Jessica. So Ruby's single comes out on the 9th. Yours is on the 25th of October. So lots of new things to look forward to, and I'm very excited to get our feet dirty, our hands dirty, our feet wet, whatever the phrase is.
Oh yeah, straight out the mud.
Did all that wrong. Yes. Straight Out the Mud. We've got Walk With Me for Jessica, Straight Out the Mud for Ruby, and then we've got I'm Learning for Jessica. So if you're not tracking these two people on all of the platforms, please do so now. It's very easy. We've been putting their names up on all sorts of things, and they're tagged in all of this. So find them on Spotify, play their music now, and please find them on YouTube as well. Just let the whole point of this is supposed to be to connect with our artists. So I hope you enjoyed this. I know I did. Thank you very much.
I did too.
And I will.
Yes, thank you so much. It was so great. And thank you to all of the people that responded online as well to those questions.
Oh, yeah. Well,
Some really
that
good
was
stuff
great
on there. Should I read a couple?
Awesome. Yeah, go ahead. Let's do it.
Okay, so for the question, what does pressing pause mean to you? Silencing my phone, kind of meta. Not opening the computer for a start. Instead of reacting to something, pause and think, and then respond. So that's good.
There you go.
Talked about that. Stopping the noise to really listen. Listening is a huge one right now, I think. Empty the mind and see nothing in the past or future. I thought that was good. Yeah. And then most people, as I said that the priority conversation is actually on mental health in their family. So that was kind of surprising to me. Very cool.
Yeah.
One said, definitely I have anxiety and ADHD. Very important to discuss for well-being. Way to go with you and your family and your next of kin. That is awesome. Oh, gosh. Great. Of course we had. What are your go-to coping mechanisms, resting, and self-care rituals? Weed was the number one. Just throwing that out there. Self-care / CBT, to tell myself that you feel better when you do X.
That's cognitive behavioral therapy. That's the CBT.
Cognitive behavior, CBT, cognitive behavioral
I love that. I'm a big fan. And I'm going to give a shout out to Angela Doria, because honestly, she taught me everything I know about that CBT stuff. She's like the best coach and therapist and Buddhist spiritualist in the world. I think she's amazing.
Awesome. Cool. So the last ones were cardio, meditation, good nutrition, and sleep. I would love to end with that one.
Yeah. There you go. Well, it's almost bedtime. Just kidding.
It's almost bedtime for me, for sure.
For you, for sure, yeah. All right. Well, ladies, thank you so much for doing this with me. And I'm hoping we're going to get to do this more often. We probably will switch it up, maybe even bring in someone who's an expert and have a little dialogue at some point, which would be fun.
That would be awesome.
And thank you. Everybody stay safe. Everybody follow Ruby Velle and Jessica Childress on any platform that you can. And thank you for joining us on UnCut again. And we'll be back.
Thank you
very soon,
so
I hope. And thanks to my team for your help with all of this. Thanks, yo.
Great job, guys.
Team. Yes.
Bye.
Go UnCut Juels.
Bye.
Okay.